Hi, this is Joe again with another review. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be discussing the 1957 film, A Farewell to Arms, starring Rock Hudson. Of course, this is not the first version of A Farewell to Arms. It was one, I think, took place in the 1930s, starring Helen Hayes. But I've never seen them. The version was always hanging around somewhere, and it's either on a channel I don't have, or I'm always missing it some way, or just not interested in seeing it. Well, I just happened to see this version, and I think, oh, I read the book in high school. Let me see how the movie version is. And I did read the book in high school, which is been over 30 years ago. I was in high school. I read A Farewell to Arms in my junior year in high school. And my father always wanted to rent out the movie for me so I could see the movie. I said, Dad, I hated the book. The book sucked. It was boring. And it was. Farewell to Arms is, of course, a book written by Ernest Hemingway. And it was extremely boring. It was so boring, I was falling asleep on the book. Now, of course, let me give you a tip, folks. Those of you who've never been to junior high or high school yet, never to see this video, or about to go to college, anytime when an English teacher or English professor gives you a reading assignment, and they tell you that the teacher or professor tells you the book is a classic, 9 times out of 10 the book sucks. Okay? So, that is the perfect, and Farewell to Arms falls into that category because it sucks. Well, the movie, in the 1957 movie version, which is about like 2.5 hours, it was extremely long, but it was long, but it didn't feel. Time went pretty quick in this film because it's not as boring. I mean, they're tying up a lot of the stuff in the film, and tell you what it is. The reason why I didn't like A Farewell to Arms, I know I gotta get a haircut. The reason why I didn't like the book of Farewell to Arms is because there's a lot of scenes in there with the main characters are sitting around in a cafe or a coffee shop or little cafe, and they're just talking about current events, and that's it. I mean that's boring. I mean, if they had one scene, then they had a second scene, then they had a third scene. In the books, okay, can do something. Have these characters do something else. That's basically what was mostly in the book. Well, in the movie, they didn't have that many types of scenes in there, so it kind of changed in that way. But the basic plot, was still they just tying up. They got rid of all the extra stuff that was in the book. Well, the basic plot of A Farewell to Arms is Rock Hudson plays an American ambulance driver during World War I who gets severely injured in a battle. And so he is convalescing in a hospital, and he falls in love with his nurse. And it's basically what the story is. And so eventually, as he recovers, that's why you have a lot of these long dialogue scenes in the book version, because it's just him resting up and recovering from his injuries, and he's talking with his doctors, talking with the nurses, talking with other patients, and then he eventually gets out of the hospital, and he talks to other people about the war, current events, and stuff like that. And that's why that book was boring to not only myself, but to the rest of my classmates. They thought it was boring. But in the film, they put the injuries a little bit later on in the film, when they already met and they already fell in love already. And Rock Hudson's character, his name is Henry, he goes off and they get into a battle. He's transporting patients, and they're in this one particular hospital, and I think it was the Italian army says, oh, we have to get out. The Germans are coming in, and they evacuate everybody. And the doctor says, look, I'm not leaving. And it's because they have all these patients. I'm a doctor. I'm the only doctor here. I have to take care of this patient. And they go, we don't care. We'll get out. So they had to leave all the patients there hanging. All the patients ended up getting killed because the Germans dropped a bomb on them. uh, was firing on the hospital and killed all the patients. So now no more patients, and so the doctor got ticked off. And the doctor gets killed because he considered him a traitor or a deserter because he got so ticked off that he had to leave all those patients hanging, and he felt he should have died with the patients, and that's when Rock Hudson says to leave the army. He was going to be the next one killed. And said, look, he didn't do anything. He said, yeah, but you're his friend, so we're going to kill you because you're the doctor's friend. So the doctor decides to leave. Excuse me. I mean, Rock Hudson's character decides to leave, goes back, finds the nurse he was in love with, and of course they both of them leave together, and they go to Switzerland, and decide to live in Switzerland for the time being, because of course he's wanted by the army because he's a deserter, and so they decided to live in Switzerland, and they found out that the nurse was pregnant. So Rock Hudson says, "Oh, let's get married," and he's pressuring her to get married because they wanted to get married anyway. So he says, "So what? Oh, we're going to get married anyway. So let's get married now before the baby, before you give birth. Let's get married before you give birth, so the kid won't be illegitimate." So the nurse says, "No, I want to get married afterwards, after the pregnancy, so I can have my figure back." And they were haggling over that. And said, "Oh," and so Rock Hudson said, "Oh, right. So let's get married after you give birth." So of course she gives birth, and unfortunately, not only the baby died in childbirth, but so did she. It's major spoiler. They both die at the end of the movie. The baby and the nurse, they both end up dying from complications with childbirth. And what happens is Rock Hudson just walks out of the hospital and walks down the street, and that's how it ends. And that's exactly how the book ends, by the way. With her dying from complications with childbirth and the baby dying, and he just walks out of the hospital and walks away, and that's it. I thought the ending for Fellow Dogs was completely heartbreaking, but until that point, until the last couple of chapters of the book was boring as anything. And the movie, I thought the movie was slightly better than the book. Anything would be better than the book, because the book was so boring. But the movie was slightly better. I felt there was no real chemistry between Rock Hudson's character and the actor. I thought there was no chemistry. I thought it was kind of forced. Technically, it was kind of forced because Rock Hudson was a homosexual in real life, and who ended up, like 30 years later, ended up dying of AIDS. But in this thing, it felt more, the relationship between him and the nurse felt more forced than anything else. But the movie, I think the movie wasn't as bad or as boring as the book. I mean, it is long. I mean, it is about like 2.5 hours, approximately, and so, but it didn't feel as long as the book. I thought the book was longer than that because the book was so boring. That anything would be an improvement. But I know about the original version with Helen Hayes. I don't know if that version is any good or not. That version, I think, is like much shorter than the 1957 version. But you know, I mean, this version is what it is, and I didn't think it was. Surprisingly, I actually like the movie better than I like the book. Because like I said at the top of the video, or top of this review I should say, we read the book in high school and I was bored to tears, you know, from the book. But the movie, I thought it wasn't, you know, it could have been a little bit better if it was more accurate with the book, for I remember from the book. But, you know, it wasn't bad at all. I was quite surprised by that. So that's my review of the movie A Farewell to Arms, the 1957 version. Please click on the video, please rate it. Please subscribe to my channel. Please forward this video onto your Facebook pages. You can check all my reviews and all on my YouTube channel at RowdyC.com, that's all WDY, and that's C.com, that's the homepage of the Rowdy Reviewer, Chris Lee Moore, and please check out all of his videos on this website. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.